Okay, so can you guys hear me okay over the air conditioning? Yeah? Yes? Okay. So we're going to do a meditation that you've done before probably, but we're going to do it from a deeper perspective and using all of these issues. So what we're going to do is this meditation on the 8 stages at the time of death. Normally we do this meditation with the aspiration for our next life to be of benefit to all sentient beings, rather either through another human rebirth or rebirth in a Pure Land. And the emphasis is really on maintaining bodhicitta while observing the process. So it's not like we're letting go of that, but what we're adding to that is whatever understanding we have of emptiness, that's going to be the main emphasis. So we're going to go through these same 8 stages at the time of death, and I'll walk you through them, so if you've forgotten them, don't worry. But what we're going to emphasize is at each level, maintaining that awareness that this self is empty of inherent existence. And if you can, imagine what the experience of each level of mind would be. So I'll walk you through what it would be, but if you can actually try to touch it in some experience, that would be great. But if it's not working, don't worry, because it's really like a rehearsal. So we're rehearsing a good death, so that hopefully it's familiar enough that at death we can do it as we've imagined. So if you're actually having some of these experiences arise because you have good imprints and you've been practicing well, excellent. But if you're not, it's okay. Really imagine that what I'm saying is happening because that will help this rehearsal idea and hopefully will kick in at the time of death. Okay? So again, just coming to a nice straight back. And we'll start with refuge in bodhicitta, and then just move into the process. Sangye chudon sogi chunam la jantu badu dani kapsuchi dagi jin sogi pe sonam ki rola penchia sangye drupa sho sangye chudon sogi chunam la jantu badu dani kapsuchi dagi jin sogi pe sonam ki rola penchia sangye drupa sho sangye chudon sogi chunam la jantu badu dani kapsuchi dagi jin sogi pe sonam ki drola penchia sangye drupa sho. Again, reviving refuge in bodhicitta. In particular, I'm meditating on the stages of death in order to use my death in the most productive way for my path. May I realize the clear light mind is empty and realize emptiness directly. May that be imbued with bodhicitta and renunciation. And so now, visualize the bed that you'll be sleeping in tonight. And imagine laying in that bed as you are right now, in the clothes that you're wearing right now, the age that you are right now. And you've finished whatever business that you've finished and you've left unfinished whatever business is unfinished, both internally and externally, professionally and personally. Think that death is coming whether you're ready or not. And think that the awareness of death dawns on you as you lay there in your bed. I really am dying right now, even though I wish I wasn't. And so, because it's happening, may I actually use it. May I not be distracted by the projections of my mind, by the temptations of my negative states. As my mind becomes more and more subtle, may I recognize it and see it as empty. So think that you're laying there on that bed having these thoughts. Since it's happening, I may as well use it. And your body begins to feel very heavy, as if it's sinking into the bed. Difficult for your limbs to move. And your first response might be fear or discomfort, until you remember this is just the body. This is not harming my mind. Internally, you have an appearance of a mirage, like the sun hitting a hot road, shimmering like water. The mirage fills your mind's eye. And so with the heaviness of the body and the internal appearance of mirage, it occurs to you, this is just a sign that the earth element in my body is no longer able to support consciousness. And so imagine that you've managed your fears around leaving this body, and you connect with your mental experience. Think of this I. Merely labeled on the body and mind. This I that is afraid of death, this I that maybe is excited about what might happen at death, is just merely labeled on the collection. And the vision of a mirage changes to the vision of billowing smoke or steam in your mind's eye. And it becomes difficult to open and close your eyes. There is discomfort and dry mouth. And it feels as though you're being swept away. Difficult to feel grounded physically. And instead of being worried, you remind yourself this is just a sign. This unsteadiness of body, this billowing smoke appearance, just means that water is no longer able to support consciousness. Death is coming. The mind is going more subtle. And this I that doesn't want to leave friends and family, this I that is worried about leaving the body, you see it as merely labeled. This one that rises up in hope or fear, completely empty of existing from its own side. And you become aware of the coldness in your body, especially at the fingers and toes. Heat concentrating at the core, leaving the limbs. You might want blankets, but then don't like the heavy feeling of them. You might be triggered by old worries about hot and cold. The urine is dried up and the circulation is slow. And it's difficult to form clear thoughts about past or future, or even to identify everything happening in the present. And part of you knows it's okay. It's just the body. And your vision changes to fire sparks, like fireflies against a night sky. And this internal vision reminds you it's only the fire element, unable to support consciousness. It's only death. These hopes and fears that my attachment wants to chase, I can allow to dissolve. They were merely labeled by the mind. If I fear separation, it's because I forgot there is always connection. And so imagine letting go to fixation on the coarser mind. The subtler mind, less opinionated. But equally empty of inherent existence. And the vision changes from fire sparks to the appearance of a weak red-blue flame, like a candle about to go out. And the breath in becomes short, and the breath out becomes long and ragged. And some instinct might worry about losing breath until that part of you remembers it is only the body. The mind will continue. And so imagine letting go of that fear of losing breath. The heartbeat irregular. So natural to worry about that until you remember it's just the body. And so that mind becoming more quiet, that mind letting go, also not existent from its own side, not by way of its own nature. It has a nature, but does not exist by way of that nature. It has characteristics, but the characteristics do not create it, merely labeled on them. And the breath stops, and the heart stops, and the pain stops, the physical pain. And the internal vision is a radiant white light, like an autumn dawn without clouds. Sunlit and vast. It could even be as bright as headlights on high beam. But you recognize it as just appearance. And it's nice to be without pain. But you know it's a sign now the mind is becoming more subtle. And it will become even more subtle still. So you see this subtle mind released from the 80 natural conceptions, and remember that it's empty. And the white changes to red. And the radiant red increase like a sunset, filling your whole mind's eye. And as you see this red increase, you remember the emptiness of inherent existence. The clear light, non-dual experience will arise. May we recognize the self to be empty. And arises black near attainment, as if swooning unconscious. Moments before the clear light dawns, imagine that through the strength of habituation, you're ready to recognize the clear light as empty. And black changes to radiant clear light, like an autumn dawn after the initial white, when the blueness starts to show itself. And imagine there is no sense of subject and object, this and that, me and you, self and other. But through the power of habituation, that very non-dual experience induces a realization of emptiness. Your mind at its most subtle state, completely undistracted by the senses. And you finish your meditation, and the consciousness leaves on the extremely subtle wind body through the heart center of your old body, and the bardo is established. And different appearances come to your mind, shapes and colors, beautiful and frightening. But through the power of your meditation on emptiness, you see them for what they are, mere projections. And propelled by bodhicitta, this bardo body goes to parents who are ethical and kind, with whom you have strong karmic connection, And you take rebirth in the womb. And again there is clear light, but then dark. Red. White. Weak flame. Fire sparks. Billowing smoke. Mirage. Coarse consciousness in the womb. And think that you will develop healthy and strong, carrying with you strong habits of renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. Hopefully all three at the level of direct perception. And come back to your body as it is now, seated as it is now, holding with you the memory of how your next death can be. And as you sit there, think this I that appears so strongly at times of danger or praise or criticism. This is the object of negation. This is what is negated by emptiness. No self of that type exists at all. The self that is there is that which is merely labeled by the mind. Anything more, exaggeration. Okay, how did you go? Everybody still alive?